Hi, this is Miss Whitmore. I'm going to go over the elbow, forearm, and wrist muscles. Okay? And so you can get out your packet. I may have given you one or you may have printed one out. And let's go over these together. Okay, we're going to label the landmarks on the humerus. Here's the head of the humerus, the greater tubercle of the humerus, and here is the lesser tubercle of the humerus. And now in between these two is the bicipital groove of the humerus. Okay, it goes right between these two tubercles. Sometimes it's called the intertubercular groove. About halfway down is the deltoid tuberosity. Here's the neck. And here's the shaft. Okay, so I think that you all have done pretty good remembering these. I'm going to erase them and go to the distal end of the humerus. Okay, so scrolling down to the distal end, okay, we have these parts right here. We have this very special condyle. It's called the trochlea. Okay, and this articulates with the ulna. All right, and I'll make this one in blue. Whoops, well, it didn't go blue, did it? Okay, and this is the capitulum. Okay, and this articulates with the head of the radius. All right, and in this view, this is the trochlea in this view. Okay, and you can't see the capitulum, but you know it's right there. Okay, and now we have these are two special condyles, and so above these two condyles you're going to have epicondyles. So here's the lateral epicondyle. Epi means above, and here are the medial epicondyles. Okay, and I'm going to make this one in green. Okay, and then this is going to be called the lateral supracondylar ridge. We'll have some muscles that'll hook onto that. All right, and now we have two pretty special fossas right here. There's a fossa here and a fossa here. Okay, so this is the anterior view. And so on the anterior view, you're going to have the coronoid fossa, not process. Okay, and then on the posterior view, you're going to have the olecranon fossa. Okay, so when your elbow is extended, the olecranon process fits into that fossa. When your elbow is flexed, the coronoid process of the ulna fits right there. Okay, so we'll go to the ulna page, scroll down, let's see if I can get them all in here. Okay, so way up here at the very top, this is the trochlear notch. Okay, and that's where the trochlea of the humerus will fit. All right, and now we have on the lateral side of the ulna, you have the radial notch. Okay, and that's going to be where the radius will fit into, so you'll have the radio-ulnar joint. Okay, where these two things come together and form a point, okay, that is the coronoid process, and it's there for muscles to attach, as is the ulnar tuberosity and this olecranon process. That's your pointy thing on your elbow. Okay, and way down here at the distal end will be the styloid process of the ulna. Okay, and so now the radius is going to remain stationary when supination and pronation take place. The radius will have to rotate around this stationary ulna. All right, I'm going to scroll down to the next page. Let me erase this. Okay, so now here's the radius. Just 3 things to label on this. Here's the head. There's a nice big tuberosity. And then you've got a styloid process here. Okay, got that? Okay, now on this view, you can just label all kinds of things. Okay, I'm going to start here. There's the elbow joint. Okay, and so that one's pretty straightforward. Okay, here's the next one. I'm going to do it in blue. Right here. This is the radio ulnar joint. And this, as a matter of fact, is the proximal. Okay, or superior radio ulnar joint. So there's going to be 2 places that the radius and the ulna articulate. Okay, and there's just all kinds of other things that you can label on this one. This is the trochlea, because here is the ulna. Okay, and this is the capitulum, and you can see it sits right on top of the radius. Okay, so this is medial, because that's the ulna, and this is lateral. Okay, so kind of the same thing going on here. That's the proximal radio ulnar joint. This is the distal radio ulnar joint. In between these is, of course, connective tissue, interosseous membrane goes right between them. And of course, this is the ulna, and there is the radius. Okay, you have a very special ligament here that goes all the way around. That's the annular ligament. The word annular means ring-shaped, and so that's what this ligament is. It's ring-shaped. All right, let's do our first muscle. Okay, so the first muscle is going to be the biceps brachii. Okay, and so I'm going to write down the origin first. It's going to have 2 heads. This is the coracoid process of the scapula, right there. And this tendon is going to come just like that. The second head is going to be the supraglenoid tubercle of the scapula. And so that's going to be right here. And so that's going to come around and go through this bicipital groove. Okay, and then from there it's going to make our big muscle. Okay, the insertion is going to be the radial tuberosity right here. And so there's your biceps tendon crossing your elbow. Okay, and then there's the big bicep muscle right there. Okay, it has 2 jobs to do: elbow flexion and forearm supination. And I'm going to put a big green smiley face by that. Okay, this, when we test it, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do both actions. We're going to have our palm up, then we'll flex. Okay, and so I'm going to want you to palpate it right here in the middle of the upper arm. And so you're going to have your patient or your subject sitting, okay, with their elbow flexed. Flex to 90 degrees, palm up. Okay, and I want you to palpate the anterior upper arm. Okay, and because you already have your palm flexed, okay, all you're going to need to do is to, your palm supinated, all you're going to need to do is flex the elbow. Okay, so you're going to palpate right here in the middle of the anterior surface of the upper arm. Your palm should be up, and then you're going to flex your elbow. Okay? Number 2, the triceps. Okay, this is going to be the opposing muscle to the biceps. This is going to be the antagonist muscle. The triceps has 3 heads. Okay, the origin is going to be on the infraglenoid tubercle of our scapula. That's going to be right there. There's 1. Number 2 is going to be on the posterior lateral humerus. Okay, just beneath the greater tubercle. There's 2. Okay, and then the third one, the short head, is going to be on the posterior distal humerus right here. So posterior distal humerus is the third one. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3 heads for our triceps, and this third one here is really, really big. Okay, so these tendons are going to come together just like that. Okay, I'm going to color him in. And his insertion is going to be on the olecranon process of our ulna right here. That's as far as he goes. Okay, so he has 3 heads, and he stops right there on the elbow. Now, since he's on the ulna and not the radius, he has no effect on pronation or supination. So we can get into a couple of different positions for this one. I think it's going to be easiest just to have your patient sitting. Okay, and if you're going to do this, have their hand in the middle of their back, so over your head. So your shoulder is going to be flexed as far as it can be flexed, okay, and your elbow is going to be flexed as far as it can be flexed. So you're going to reach behind your head and put your hand in the middle of your back, okay? And so when you do that, then you're going to palpate right here, palpate on the posterior upper arm, and then the action is going to be to do elbow extension. Okay, and so you're just going to ask them to reach for the ceiling with their hand. That's all they got to do. Now, this muscle only has one action, elbow extension. Okay, and it's innervated by the radial nerve. And so all of the muscles on the back of our arm and the back of our hand are innervated by the radial nerve. Okay. Let's see if I can erase this. And we're going to scroll down to the next one. Okay, so we've had 1 elbow flexor and we've had 1 elbow extensor. Okay, now for the brachialis. Okay, the origin is going to be the anterior surface of the humerus. Now, if you'll remember, the biceps never even attached to the humerus, and the biceps was a pretty big flexor. The biceps was attached to the scapula and the radius. Okay, the brachialis is going to be attached to the anterior surface of the humerus. Okay, and then the insertion is going to be on the coronoid process of the ulna. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, the coronoid process of the ulna. So that's right here. And the ulnar tuberosity. So I'm going to make 2 dots just because they named 2 things, okay? This is the coronoid process of the ulna. I'm sorry, I might have said the wrong thing a minute ago. Coronoid process of the ulna and the ulnar tuberosity. And so this is as far as he comes, okay? So he's not on the radius, and so he's not going to do any kind of pronation or supination. Okay, he's going to be quite happy either way. This is a powerhouse flexor. All right, so he's just going to do elbow flexion. And because he's on just the ulna, okay, he's not going to do any pronation or supination. Okay, and the nerve for this guy is the same one that the biceps has, musculocutaneous. Okay, put a little star and a smiley face here. This muscle is deep to the biceps at the distal humerus. Okay, and so remember now, in the other chapter, you had a muscle that was up here that was deep to the humerus. Okay, so that's the coracobrachialis. The coracobrachialis was deep to the humerus, deep to the biceps at the proximal end of the humerus. And so this brachialis is deep to the biceps at the distal end. Okay, just kind of a quick review. I'll erase all of that. All right, now here's what we want to do to palpate it. Okay, so we want to be in the sitting position, palm up, elbow flexed to 90 degrees. Okay, and I want you to palpate deep to the biceps. Okay, and let's go on the lateral side of our biceps tendon. So we're going to be right here. We're going to be palpating it right here. Okay, because our biceps are kind of big. Okay, and so then the action I want you to do, so I'm going to put motion right up here. Motion, I want you to turn your palm over to get that tendon out of the way, and then flex your elbow. And if you watch the videos, then for palpating the muscles, that's exactly what we do. Okay, so I'm going to repeat it one more time. I just want you in the sitting position, palm up, elbow flexed to 90. Okay, and you're going to palpate deep to the biceps tendon on the lateral side of the tendon. Okay, and so you're going to make kind of a little hole over there on your arm and go underneath your biceps. And now turn your palm down. Even if you go halfway down, that's enough. Okay, and then flex. And that should be it. Musculocutaneous nerve. All right, let's scroll down. So those were 3 big muscles. You have 2 flexors so far and 1 elbow extensor. Okay, now for the brachioradialis. Okay, this one is on the lateral supracondylar ridge of the humerus. Okay, so I want you all to be able to look at this picture, and I want you to name this the ulna. Do this first. Here's the radius. Okay, so now you know that this is the lateral supracondylar ridge right here. And if you'll name those forearm bones, you'll be able to get that. Okay, so I'm going to go halfway down with that muscle. The insertion is on the styloid process of our radius. Right here. Okay, and so there's the brachioradialis. This brachioradialis is on the lateral side of your forearm, okay? It is just an elbow flexor, okay? While it is on the radius, it's right at the midline of the radius, and so he's not going to help him do any kind of pronation or supination, okay? And now this is very special. The nerve for this is the radial nerve, okay? Even though he's not on the back of the arm, he is on the lateral side of the arm. And so radial nerve is going to be the one that innervates this muscle. So this is kind of a special thing right here we can put a couple of stars, maybe in a smiley face by that. Okay, the action that we're going to do is going to be to flex our elbow. So let's get into the right position. Okay, we want to be in the sitting position, and we want to be so that our hand is ready. We're going to call it the handshake position. We're going to be right in position, ready to shake hands with somebody. Okay, and what that means is that your forearm is neutral. It's not pronated. It's not supinated. Okay, and in this neutral position, your brachioradialis is right on top of your radius. And so that's facing up. It's facing up towards the ceiling. So I want you to palpate this muscle on the, I'm going to call it the upper forearms lateral surface. And so that's going to be right up there where you are, where you can see it right on top when you're in this position. I'll say lateral surface, and I'm going to say near the elbow. Okay, and of course it's origin on the lateral supracondylar ridge. Okay, and I want you to simply do elbow flexion. Okay, and you can resist flexion if you want to. If you look at the video, you can see how we resist flexion. So we're going to palpate it right up here. Okay? Okay, so we've had 3 flexors. Okay, we've had our biceps, we've had the brachialis, and now the brachioradialis. So those are 3 flexors. And we've had 1 extensor, the triceps. Okay, so now we're going to go to the pronator teres. Okay, and so we are not going to, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. And so we are not going to do the pronator quadratus, so leave him out, okay? Can't palpate it, so we're going to skip him. All right, so let's do the pronator quadratus. This is a tricky one because he's on the medial epicondyle, and so I'm going to need you to find the medial epicondyle of your humerus. Okay, and so you're going to label, here is the ulna. So you know that is the medial epicondyle. Okay, and here is the radius. So you know which way, you know how to find medial and lateral. So make sure that you do this every time. So he's on the medial epicondyle of the humerus. Okay, and the insertion is on the coronoid process. Of the ulna. All right, and so I'm going to, oh, not the insertion. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to erase it. I'm not going to start the whole video over again. So he's on the medial epicondyle. He has 2 places that he's hooked on, and the coronoid process of the ulna. So red dot here, medial epicondyle of the humerus, coronoid process of the ulna. Okay, and his insertion, here's the insertion, is on the lateral aspect of the radius. And so here he's going to go right here, right here. And so you're just going to draw that muscle in just like this. Okay, now he is attached to the humerus and he's attached to the radius. He's going to do 2 things. He's going to flex the elbow and he's going to pronate the forearm, or if you want to call the forearm the radial ulnar joint, you can do that. Okay, and now this has the musculocutaneous nerve. Oh no, it doesn't. Miss Whitmore, what are you saying? Well, I've gone insane. Well, it looks like it has the, I'll do it in green, median nerve. So this is the first muscle we've had that has the median nerve. Okay, so I'm going to say all of this over again. Okay, the origin for the muscle is the medial epicondyle of the humerus and the coronoid process of the ulna. The insertion is the lateral aspect of the radius. Okay, this muscle is going to flex the elbow and pronate the forearm or the radial ulnar joint. And it's innervated by the medial nerve. Well, I did it again. It's It's innervated by the median nerve. Okay, so I'm going to erase all of this because I've written all over the page. All right, now then, here's what I want you to do. You're going to get into position. I want you to have, of course, you're going to be sitting. I want your elbow flexed. Okay, and I want you to be palm up. So that's going to be supinated. So I want you in a position where you're supinated. Okay, so here is the muscle right here, right through here, and I want you to palpate the muscle right here, right in between the origin and the insertion. So the insertion is going to be right there, the origin is going to be right there, and you're going to palpate right between them. Okay, so palpate close to the origin, okay, and between the radius and the ulna, because you can find that. It's easy to find those two bones. Go right between them, radius and the ulna, and then all I want you to do is the action that this guy does. Pronate, okay, pronate the forearm. And so you're just going to ask him to turn their hand down. And so you should feel this nice, strong muscle right there. This is a superficial muscle on the front of the forearm, innervated by median nerve. Easy to find, easy to find. If you can find the medial epicondyle. If you get confused with your epicondyles, you won't be able to find it. All right, now then the supinator. Okay, and the supinator is a small muscle. I'm going to write down small and deep, and so that means be careful, make sure you get to the right place. Okay, he's on the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. So this is opposite of what the pronator has. All right, and he's on the adjacent ulna. So here he is right here, the lateral epicondyle. Here he is on the adjacent ulna. He has kind of a long origin that attaches right there. Okay, the insertion is going to be on the lateral and anterior radius, right about there. And so this is kind of a weird muscle to draw. So I'm going to draw him just like that. Okay, we're going to palpate him right here. So I want you to have your person, of course, sitting. I want their elbow flexed to 90 degrees. And this is very important. I want your forearm to be in the neutral position, that is handshake position. Okay, so just be in the neutral position with your forearm. Okay, palpate just distal to the lateral epicondyle. Okay, and then just do his action, supinate. So I'll draw a smiley face right there too. Okay, and now this is definitely something that's on the back of your arm, and so since it is on the posterior arm, it's going to have radial nerve. Okay, so if something happens and your radial nerve doesn't work, you won't be able to use this supinator. Okay, now then your biceps does supination, and so you will have somebody else that's going to supinate, but just in case the radial nerve is affected, okay, you will have trouble, you'll have weakened supination. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, and the next picture we're going to do, I'm going to blow this up. Okay, the next picture we're going to do is label some joints. Okay, let's do the joints of our wrist. Whoops. Okay, and so here you have it. I'm going to draw this line right here. Radio carpal joint. Okay, and so they're supposed to be right here underneath the ulna and articular disc. And so supposedly that articular disc is being there is what make, they don't say radio-ulnar carpal joint, they just say radiocarpal joint. So here's the radius, okay, and here's the carpals, here's the ulna, here's the ulnar articular disc. Okay, I'm going to draw a circle right here. This is the distal radio-ulnar joint. All right, here's a styloid process right here for your radius, and of course here's one then for your ulna. Okay, and so in green, I'm going to make this line go through all of these carpals. This is called the mid-carpal joint. Okay, and in red, I'm going to go between these phalanges and these carpals. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, well, I've messed up again. I'm talking too much, so I keep making mistakes. Okay, this is going to be the carpal metacarpal joints. The carpal metacarpal joints, here's the metacarpals, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So carpal metacarpal joint, now they also abbreviate that CMC. For your thumb, for the second finger, the third finger, the fourth finger, and then the fifth finger. Okay, the carpal metacarpal joints. So you have the carpal metacarpal joints, mid-carpal joint, radiocarpal joint, and then the distal radio-ulnar joint. Okay, so label those first. Want to know those joints? Okay, now we're going to label the bones. Okay, so of course you're going to have your radius and your ulna, and now your carpals. Okay, I'm going to write the first letter of each one on each bone. So this is the scaphoid, and I want you to notice that I'm starting here. This is the proximal row, okay, and I'm starting on the thumb side. Okay, so here's the thumb. Proximal row, thumb side. Okay, scaphoid, lunate. Well, it won't let me make an A. Triquitrum, so I'll put TQ. Triquitrum and pisiform. Okay, that's for this proximal row of carpals. Now, for the distal row, we're going to have trapezium, okay, then teeny tiny itsy bitsy trapezoid, and this huge capitate, and then the hamate, and of course then here's the hook of hamate right here. Okay, so I want to make sure you get those bones labeled. Oops, that's 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and so if you were to write all of these, scaphoid, lunate, triquitrum, pisiform, then trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate, you'll have your sentence to remember: some, lovers, try, positions, that's a Y, try, positions that they can't handle. So you remember that sentence, okay, and then you can remember the order of these bones. And so you'll start with this one, scaphoid, lunate, triquitrum, pisiform, and then go to trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. And then you can learn all of those capitate bones. Okay, got all that done. Now, okay, don't worry about this page. Now you're going to have 3 flexors and 3 extensors. Okay, and so the radiocarpal joint is a biaxial condyloid shaped joint. Okay, it does flexion and extension. Okay, and it does radial and ulnar deviation. Okay, so the radiocarpal joint does flexion and extension. It's a biaxial joint, and it is a condyloid shaped joint. That's what they call it. So your joints can be, it can be a hinge joint, a pivot joint, a condyloid joint, a ball and socket joint, but this is a condyloid shape. Okay, now then the origin for all of your flexors is going to be the medial epicondyle of the humerus. And so this is the ulna, so this is medial. Okay, and so the first one that we're going to do will be the flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay, so this muscle is going to stay right on top of the ulna, and it's going to go to the pisiform, which is right here, and the base of the 5th metacarpal right here. So you can see that this muscle is going to flex and ulnar deviate. So I'm going to put a little green smiley face. Okay, so when we palpate it, that's what I want you to do. I'm going to want you to flex and ulnar deviate that muscle. Okay, and so there's the muscle. Okay, and so I'm going to want you to be sitting, of course, and I want you to rest your forearm and wrist on the table. Okay, and I want you to palpate. Oh, and this will be palm up so you can get to it. I want you to palpate proximal to the pisiform. Okay, and we've all found that in class. That's going to be right there. Right there. Okay, and then do these actions. Then flex and ulnar deviate. Okay, and now since this is on the ulnar side, it's innervated by the ulnar nerve. Okay, and so this is the only one that has the ulnar nerve. So this is the first one and the only muscle that we have in this unit, innervated by the ulnar nerve. Okay. I'm just going to leave this picture up here. The next one that we're going to do is the palmaris longus. He's on the medial epicondyle, just like all of the other flexors. Okay, and he's going to come all the way down here. The insertion is on what they call the palmar fascia. I think your book calls it aponeurosis, so that's okay. Okay, and I'm going to draw that palmar fascia to look like a triangle, just like that. Okay, not everybody has the palmaris longus. Okay, but anyway, we're going to palpate it just like this. Okay, and the action this is going to do is, of course, to flex your wrist. The nerve, median nerve. Okay, so once again, sitting, okay, with your forearm, wrist, and hand resting on the table. Okay, palm up. Okay, and I'm going to want you to palpate in the center of your wrist, right here. Oh, let me make that green. Okay, and I'm going to want you to ask your person to squeeze the tips of your fingers together and flex the wrist, okay? Because when you squeeze the tips of your fingers together, that's making that palmar fascia squeeze together and contract, okay? And that should make, if you have the palmaris longus, that will make it stick out a little bit. And so this one is not on everybody, it's just heredity. Some people don't have it. And so if you can't find it, then just let us know, let me know, or let Dr. Allen know if you see him before you see me, and say, do I have a palmaris longus? And then we'll find it. So pretty interesting. This muscle is pretty interesting. And so if something happens and you're in an accident or something, sometimes if you have a palmaris longus, they can take this tendon and they can put it somewhere else that you might need it. Maybe you've hurt a thumb for some reason and they need to replace the tendon over there. So that's pretty interesting. Y'all can look that up if you want to. Using this tendon to replace another one. If you have this tendon. If you don't have it, of course you can't do it. Okay, but it's perfectly normal if someone doesn't have it. All right, now here's the last one. This is going to be flexor carpi radialis. And so this is going to be on the radial side of your forearm, okay? And they all are starting on the medial epicondyle of the humerus, starting right here, but it's going to go over here to the radial side of your wrist, and it's going to attach to the second and third metacarpals. So you got to be able to find those two things. So here's the first metacarpal, second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay, and so it's going to cross the wrist while it's on the anterior side of the wrist. It's going to be on the lateral side of the anterior wrist. Okay, and I'm going to make a green frowny face, and I'm going to say, do not come this far to palpate it. Got it? Don't come that far. Okay, you're going to palpate it right here on the front of the wrist. I'm going to say, come here to palpate. I'll put a smiley face right here. Okay, so don't come all the way to the edge of your wrist. Stay on the front of your wrist. Okay, but you're just going to be on the lateral side of the anterior wrist. Okay, and the palmaris longus is here. Okay, and then the flexor carpi ulnaris is here. That's the palmaris longus. So you see they're all three right there close together on the anterior side of the wrist. Okay, now this guy's going to do two things. He's going to flex and radially deviate. Okay, and then that's what you're going to do to palpate it. You're going to flex and radially deviate. This guy's going to have the median nerve. Okay, and so you're going to palpate on the anterior lateral wrist, but don't go all the way over there by your thumb. Okay, and then do both of these actions, flex and radial deviate. This is a huge tendon that looks like a big guitar string, or feels like one when you palpate it. So we're going to palpate the tendons for these three muscles that are right there where your wrist is. Okay, and now where you see these tendons disappear, there is a ligament that goes across. So don't worry if you see it disappear into your hand. That's quite normal. Okay, and so And now make sure you look at the videos for this, because I have a person there that I'm palpating it on, and you'll be able to see, you know, what's going on. Okay, so practice drawing those three separately. Okay, now we're going to do 3 more muscles, and then we'll be done with this video. Okay, 3 more muscles. Okay, this is going to be the extensor carpi radialis longus. Okay, and the origin is the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Okay, and so here's the radius. So here it is. It's going to be right here, and it's going to go straight down to the second metacarpal. Okay, and he's going to extend and radially deviate. Okay, and we're going to do both of those when we palpate it. Okay, we're going to go, I want you to go to the back of your hand, okay, and right here on the back of your hand, well, actually it's right on top of your capitate bone. Let me see if I can make him go a little bit closer to where he's supposed to go. Okay, so here's your capitate right here, and on top of your capitate is a hole. Okay, and so this tendon is right on the edge of that hole. Okay, so this line kind of crooked. He's probably not quite that crooked. There. Okay, and then that's where you're going to palpate this muscle. You're going to be right here in the hole in the back of your hand. Okay, and it's going to be just distal to the second and third metacarpals. So, palm down, arms supported. Okay, I want you to palpate the hole in the back of your wrist or hand. Okay, and that hole is on top of the capitate bone. You ought to be able to find it pretty easily. Okay, just keep your hand flat. Follow the second metacarpal down to where the wrinkles in your wrist are and press, and you'll find a nice hole. Okay, and then I want you just to extend the wrist like 2 millimeters and then radial deviate just 2 millimeters. In other words, don't make a big movement, make a small movement. Raise your hand up and to the thumb side, just a little bit, and you should feel that tendon tighten up. Okay, and so that's going to be for the extensor carpi radialis longus. Okay, and the brevis is going to be the same exact thing. Okay, so let me write his origin, lateral epicondyle, only one difference. The insertion is on the third metacarpal. Goodness sakes, this screen is so slippery, I can't write on it. Metacarpal. Okay, and the action is going to be just extension for this guy. Okay, so he's on the third metacarpal right here, and he's going to go through the hole in the back of your wrist. Okay, he's on the lateral epicondyle, and he's going to be right next to the extensor carpi radialis longus. And while I'll show you in lab how to tell them apart, but for us just sitting here together, it's kind of hard to tell them apart. They're so close together, you're going to feel them at the same time. So do the same thing. Do the same thing we did for the extensor carpi radialis longus, and that will take care of the extensor carpi radialis brevis. Whoops, that's it. Okay, and so this extensor carpi radialis brevis is right in the center of where you would need to be if you were going to radial or ulnar deviate. And so he's not going to help with either one. Okay? So put your hand flat down. Go to the back of your hand and follow the second and third metacarpals down to the back of your wrist, right where there's some wrinkles in your wrist, and press, okay? And so you should find a nice hole there, okay? And then really, really easy, don't move your fingers, just move the palm of your hand up and radial deviate, and you'll feel his two small tendons. One more muscle and then we're done. One more muscle. Let's draw this one. Okay, this is going to be the extensor carpi ulnaris. Okay, so you know he's going to go to the fifth metacarpal. Okay, he's on the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. I think one of these, I think it says the lateral epicondyle and the supracondylar ridge. So those are pretty close to the same place. Okay, he's on the fifth metacarpal and the tendon of, oh no, that's not right. I'm thinking of a hand muscle. The fifth metacarpal right here. It's going to straight up just like that. Okay, and so once again, palm down. Okay, and I want you to palpate the tendon, distal to the fifth metacarpal. And so you're going to find your fifth metacarpal and you're going to follow it down right here. Okay, you're going to be right in front of your ulnar styloid process. So here's the ulnar styloid process. It's big. So you can palpate this one here or here. Okay, one of those two places, and then do his action. I want you to do wrist extension and do ulnar deviation, but don't do it like super big. Okay, just do it a little bit, a few millimeters is all you need. Okay, and this is innervated by the radial nerve. Okay, so those are your 6 wrist muscles. Let's see what we got next. We did that. Okay, and then here's just a little picture of the wrist. Okay, any questions? Y'all just let me know.